Welcome to the show. I'm Jason Whitlock, and I'll tell you why Tom Brady should be outraged by the Patriots' latest move.
And I'm Colin Cowherd, and I'll tell you why LeBron is absolutely right going after Nick Saban. Protect your business, LeBron. Speak for yourself starts now.
I'm going to clown you today.
I may go get a law degree. Can you do that over the course of an afternoon?
Oh, my God. All right, hello and welcome. We're joined today by former NFL head coach Eric Mangini and Colin's co-host on The Herd, Christine Leahy. Let's start in New England, where reportedly the Patriots have agreed to trade Brandin Cooks and a fourth-round pick to the Rams for a first- and sixth-round pick. According to the report, Brady wasn't opposed to the trade, but with Cooks departing, New England will be almost unrecognizable this season, having already lost Danny Amendola, Malcolm Butler, Deion Lewis, and Nate Solder. Cowherd, should Brady be concerned about these moves?
I would say yes for this. As you age as a quarterback, generally a GM would want to, Phillip Rivers is getting a little older, Eli. You'd like to give him a little more help. When a guy's in his peak, a little more escapability, he's a great player. Aaron Rodgers can carry a little more. So he lost his left tackle and his best back and his deep threat. And I know some of these are, but Amendola was the #1 target in the postseason for him. And by the way, he comes back into a season with 32-year-old Julian Edelman off an ACL and Gronk, who has been at times unavailable. If one gets hurt, it's a pretty limited group of offensive weapons.
To me, Cowherd, I think Bill Belichick is continuing with his plan that he had in mind when Garoppolo was supposed to be taking over. And I think he's like reshuffling the deck, doing a rebuild, building for the future as if Garoppolo were still there. I think that's like the decision he made. Okay, you're going to make me trade Garoppolo. I'm still sticking to my plan.
Right.
And if I'm Brady, that would concern me because the moves they're making right now aren't win-now moves, and he's a win-now quarterback.
By the way, I like what they did with the Brandin Cooks move. But to your point,
yeah,
it's a weak receiver draft. You may not have another Brandin Cooks available.
Yeah, I wouldn't be concerned at all. They kept the most important free agent, and that was Josh McDaniels. And then they kept the second most important free agent, and that was Dante Scarnecchia.
What? Whoa, stop.
No, hold on.
Hold it!
The most important, those were the two most important pieces.
It's a players' league, and you just named an assistant coach.
Okay, I named two assistant coaches. I named the offensive coordinator and the offensive line coach. What Dante Scarnecchia has been able to do year in and year out with that offensive line is impressive. Go look at the names. Do we sit here and talk about this is the highest paid offensive line in the league like we did with Oakland, or this is, the best offensive line in the league with 3 number ones like we do in Dallas? No, but they're always good. And keeping Josh, it's the same thing. And you can add free agents. Remember they won the offseason last year? And they started horribly? So you don't know how guys are going to fit in. Chad Johnson, that was a big get. That didn't work out. So whether it's draft picks or free agency, they're going to build their team differently each year. They didn't want to pay what they had to pay for Danny Amendola. They didn't want to pay what they had to pay for Nate Solder. And they're building a team, and it's all ties in together from a cap perspective.
Nate Solder is the only one that concerns me. The rest of it, the first 3 Super Bowls for Tom Brady was an entirely different team, so they always make this work. And I agree with you, Josh McDaniels counts, because the question is, should Tom Brady be concerned about the Patriots' offseason? Well, the biggest offseason loss that he would have had was Josh McDaniels, and they made sure to keep him. And Brandin Cooks, his completion percentage to Cooks was 56%. Tom is 66% overall, so that was below his normal.
Let me just say this, though. I watched that Tom versus Time doc.
Yeah.
Tom likes continuity. He's a habit. He's a creature of habit. He likes some control, and he likes certainty. And that's okay. That's what Tom, you watch that thing. He's watching the films. He has the same habit. There's a lot of uncertainty on this offense. I mean, he doesn't have a left tackle. And again, Jeremy Hill may be fine. But I look at this offseason, and to your point, you go into this season having a lot of new faces, don't you?
I'm offended that Eric thinks that coaches are more important than players. I find that offensive. But it doesn't surprise me. He's a former coach, and you come from that New England thing. And Belichick does think he invented football. That's why he thought he could bench Malcolm Butler with no repercussions during the Super Bowl. To me, this offseason, so far, let's see what they do with these picks. Maybe they go out, I wouldn't get Odell, but maybe they go out and get a receiver or somebody in the draft. You got to have players at some point. You just can't give them all away.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if we're playing fantasy football, it's great to go out and get whatever names work and pay them whatever you need to pay them, and not worry about chemistry, and not worry about continuity, and not worry about.
You mean what the Rams are doing?
Well, I'm just saying, and not worry about coaching. But every year we talk about, okay, well, this coaching move was really good, or this player developed in this system, or this quarterback needs to be drafted by this team because it has a coach that can develop them. There's transition every year in New England, and since free agency started, which was radically different, they've still found a way to win year in and year out, and this year will be no different.
You know what? I remember when Charlie Weiss left, Patriots fell apart. When Eric Mangini left, the Patriots fell apart.
Now, that seems mean.
When Romeo Crennel left, the Patriots fell apart.
8 more years to go to the Super Bowl after I left. But
That's
okay.
a pretty good point.
I mean, it took a long time, but whatever.
The Ravens just signed RG3, Robert Griffin III, to a one-year deal to back up Joe Flacco, who frankly doesn't get hurt much. The signing is going to raise some eyebrows from supporters of another quarterback who didn't play last season either, Colin Kaepernick. Last time we saw both these guys in the field, 2016, Cap played a lot more than RG3. His numbers were way, way better, though they both had, kind of terrible records. Whitlock, you surprised RG3 got a job before Kaepernick.
Not remotely. RG3 just signed a one-year deal for, I'm sure, very little money. RG3 has been humbled. It finally humbled him. And, ego had been a problem for RG3. It no longer is. So he signed probably a very self-aware deal. Colin Kaepernick, because of all of his supporters and because of his delusion, thinks he should be signing some big contract, and probably for more than 1 year. And so he's not going to get a job because he's delusional. RG3, he's out of his delusion. He's getting an opportunity to be a camp arm and probably get cut in Baltimore, but,
Here's what I don't understand about the Cap fans. So what Kaepernick fans will say is, well, he's better than this guy, and he's better than that guy. I think so. Kaepernick's brand this morning is politics. That's what it is. If I think of Kaepernick, I have one piece of video in a year on his Instagram account of him throwing to a random, it was by himself. RG3's brand is mediocre quarterback with injuries. So are we shocked? I know the media tells you that sports and politics are always great together. Well, Seattle just gave Michael Bennett away, and he's still a very disruptive pass rusher. Now, it may work in Golden State, but Cap's brand, yes, Cap is good enough to play in the league. Are we also going to deny that there are some teams that are worried about bringing politics into a locker room?
guy doesn't love football.
Look, Colin is better than RG3. Colin is better than Johnny Manziel. Colin should be playing football. But to bring Colin in, it's extremely disruptive. And people don't want to talk about distractions and all those other things. Those are real. Those are real. Now, a guy like RG3 or Johnny Manziel, those guys are lottery tickets. The other day, the Mega Millions was $500 million. I bought a lottery ticket. I know the odds are it's not going to hit, but it's the same thing with RG3 and Johnny. You bring him in, you don't pay him very much. It's a 90-man roster during training camp. If it hits, it's great. It's tremendous upside, and you'll do that sometimes with guys coming off major injuries. If it doesn't hit, you haven't lost anything, and they're not really that disruptive to the whole flow of what you're trying to do. Where Colin, unfortunately, even though he's more talented and should be playing, the other things outweigh it.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised at all. I think this was really a done deal as soon as the slave owner thing happened, right? With the Ravens, there's no way they're going to take another chance and sign him. And if you have a choice between RG3 and Colin Kaepernick, even if Kaepernick maybe is a little more talented, you're going to choose the guy who has less noise. They've both started out hot. Their careers kind of fizzled out. Yes, one of them has been humbled. And also, as you said, RG3 is on a one-year deal. That doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be on the team next year. They can cut him, and it's not a big deal. You cut Colin Kaepernick, that's a big story.
No question about it. And your point about Steve Bisciotti, the owner of the Ravens, who's making this deal, again, Kaepernick's girlfriend basically called him a slave owner over social media. And Kaepernick's got a lawsuit against the NFL for collusion. And so there's just no surprise here. Again.
By the way, Jason, we've seen this. This is all sports, but we'll just stick to football. As you well know, it's not just the most talented people on rosters who's more coachable. By the way, Andy Reid just gave up Marcus Peters, the best pure corner in the NFL. There's a lot of components to being signed. What's your price? Odell Beckham, there's no takers. Because Odell Beckham's like, I'm fragile, I'm a little emotional, and I want to be the highest paid receiver in the league. This idea that, well, this guy's more talented than that guy. What's his price? How coachable? Is he a distraction? This has always been true in sports, unless you're a superstar where people will overlook a lot of stuff.
And the other thing with Johnny Manziel and RG3, you see them working at football. Johnny's going to that spring league. They're at workouts. They do post things on social media. They're doing interviews. You see that there is a commitment to that, and you haven't seen much from Colin outside of the political aspect. But from a skill perspective, he should play. From a noise perspective, it's going to be hard for anybody to do that.
Everything that's taught in sports, and most acutely in football, is about you're not a victim. And we control everything within this locker room. Don't get caught up in the officiating. Don't get caught up in anything but what we do here in this locker room. And this is where I keep blasting Kaepernick. He's a victim. He's a martyr. You don't want to bring that mentality into your locker room. Oh, that guy's, are we victims? And again, that's not the mentality of winning sports teams or, in my opinion, winning people. Once you start seeing yourself as a victim, guess what? You're going to be a victim.
Welcome back. Christine Leahy's here. Joined now by the founder of the Big Lead, Jason McIntyre. Let's move to a bizarre feud between LeBron and Nick Saban. It's actually entertaining. On Monday, LeBron's media company, Uninterrupted, sent a letter accusing Bama of copyright infringement after the school released a trailer for their barbershop-themed interview series called Shop Talk, which looked a lot like LeBron's barbershop-themed interview series called The Shop. Well, now the conflict appears to be heating up. Saban and LeBron going back and forth in the media yesterday.
I think LeBron James is a great player. There's been at least 20 barbershop type things I've seen on TV. I didn't know anybody owned that. I didn't even know he had one. I'm sorry that anybody could be offended by something that we were just having fun with, and I enjoyed it, and we're going to continue to do it.
That's exactly what I would think he would say. But I built Uninterrupted for a reason, for us athletes to have a platform to be able to speak about, whatever we want to talk about. And I respect him as a coach, but I'd be damned if I allow someone to, use our platform or try to, do the same thing we're doing and, just think it's okay. So the lawyers will figure it out.
Whitlock, whose side are you on?
First things first, or First Take is suing First Things First. I mean, are you kidding me? Are you kidding? LeBron needs to, again, this is what he's a young person, relatively, 34 years old. He should check out the Andy Griffith show. I think Floyd the Barber and Andy Griffith, they used to talk in a barbershop. So again, if we want to start talking about who's stealing stuff from, let's start with Floyd the Barber and Andy Griffith. This has been going on for decades and years. LeBron, I think, foolishly thinks like black people have a lock on barbershop talk, as if white people don't go to barbershops and talk sports. They do. Let me bring some news to him. So this is silly to me. And I couldn't believe the indignation that LeBron expressed his thoughts.
Well, you love The Godfather, right?
Yeah.
You love The Godfather.
Love it.
Well, LeBron has moved into the mogul/Godfather stage. And,
What?
And he is demonstrating, he is fighting for what is his and his land and his peace. And somebody has encroached, trespassed on his peace.
Are you joking right now? I can't tell if
No,
you're
this
being
is happening. Listen, I'm not an attorney. But if this was not LeBron and Saban, it was a guy named Larry and Nick. This is why you have attorneys. This kind of stuff happens every day in America. It's just not Nick Saban and LeBron fighting over it. Like if you had a barber shop in town and they both, you had series, this is why they have attorneys.
Isn't it about time for LeBron to go 0 dark 30? Like, go 0 dark 30. It's about time for the playoffs to start, and you're worried about this. And you made a good point. That's a good reference. But LeBron, I hope that those lawyers are still on speed dial, because MTV is going to be coming for you next. Because in 2006, there was a show called The Shop about a barbershop and conversations that were going inside with Chris Brown and Fabulous. So it was actually done before with the same name, and you didn't even try to switch it up like Alabama did. And because I'm from Chicago, I got my lawyers involved, and they're looking at some copyright infringement because, LeBron, you're trying to steal Michael Jordan's moves, and you're not even doing it as well.
Oh.
Jeez. Look, you guys are going after LeBron heavily
today.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
Wait. And number 23, where'd that come from?
Oh,
Copyright
geez, right. He's
infringement.
stolen everything. Guys, I got some bad news for you here. This is much ado about nothing. LeBron is a smart businessman, and I'm not picking a side, and here's why. How do you pump up a fledgling media platform if nobody's really talking about it? Warner Brothers invested $15 million. Come on, Christine, what do you got? You go after Nick Saban. You bring him into it. You now have 48 hours arguing LeBron versus Nick Saban, talking about uninterrupted, something that nobody's discussed for years. I mean, last year with the Draymond barbershop, yeah, they talked about it a little bit, but he is basically getting his name in the media, getting his business name out there in the media, on the shows, and now we're talking about it, and now it's back in the discussion. That's all this is.
Gosh.
There's no real lawyer here getting serious. LeBron's like, let's fire off a letter with our lawyer. Let's get in the media, pump it up.
That's an even bigger point, that it is LeBron getting so involved in this, and the playoffs
But
are about
he's
to start,
not.
and he wants to be compared to Michael Jordan, and yet he's trying to get a copyright infringement thing written to a college.
They have no
Focus on what's
copyright.
He
important.
wants right now to be compared to Kobe Bryant, who just won an Oscar.
You're right.
And now he sees
Right.
LeBron sees
The
himself.
shop's not winning an Oscar.
No,
I'm
he
sorry.
sees himself as a television mogul. He really does. And again, so much of the media is rigged that he thinks Survivor's Remorse, that show they produce, he thinks it's, Seinfeld or, one of the great television shows, the Sopranos or something, and it's just not. And so again, I don't blame, he's delusional. He thinks that they invented this barbershop talk thing. You made a Godfather reference. Someone needs to chop off some self-awareness and put it in LeBron's bed.
You guys just love just bagging on LeBron. You
Seriously.
really think he's serious about this?
Well, and he said that he did this to give athletes and players an opportunity to say whatever they want, which, by the way, good. I like that. But that's what Alabama's doing, too. So that's not what it's really about. 'Cause if
LeBron,
you
the
cared-
Ohio State fan,
because if
going
you-
after Nick
Ah,
Saban,
very
Mr.
good
Alabama. Come on, this is just
all
a
of this
feud.
has nothing to do with basketball.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I see the logos here? Can we put these up?
Look, he
It's
could have.
scissors.
Okay, let's see. That's
the shot.
Oh, we got nothing in
Oh.
common.
One's up,
What
one's
else are they
down.
supposed to do? It's a barbershop. Put clippers up
How
there?
about a big head of
That's not
hair?
good.
Different audiences.
A
Come on.
mustache.
Well, first of all, if I was LeBron, I wouldn't have used those type of clippers because that's not what black
Exactly.
people use.
You use the
Seriously,
clippers.
I would have used
The buzzer.
Yeah, the buzzer.
Oh,
so
my goodness.
again, I listen. I'm just telling you, LeBron. This is what happens. So much money at such a young age, so much adulation. He's delusional on this aspect. There's some things LeBron handles well. Most of them on the basketball court, but he doesn't get the reason why he's getting these television opportunities is because of his basketball play. They're not some kind of genius. They're not David Simon inventing The Wire. They're not Brian Koppelman doing Billions. He's a great basketball player that TV networks and other people are giving platforms because he's a great
Wait a
basketball
sec.
player.
LeBron didn't get nominated for an Oscar for Trainwreck? Amy Schumer? He was great in that. Seriously,
was
let's be
pretty
honest.
good.
He was funny in that movie. Christine, you got to give him props.
All right, welcome back. We're joined now by ex-NBA champion Eddie House and Fox NBA analyst Chris Broussard. Let's move to Cleveland, where reportedly Tyronn Lue will return to the Cavs sideline tomorrow night after missing 9 games while addressing some ongoing health issues. In his absence, Cleveland has gotten hot, going 8-1, including that statement win last night over the East-leading Raptors. Cowherd, do you expect the Cavs to keep rolling once Ty's back?
I do. The East is a mess. Kyrie Irving's out. John Wall's minutes restrictions. Joel Embiid now is hurt. Listen, man, everybody thinks they're getting it over on LeBron, and he's going to play 82 games. When we write the book on LeBron, we're going to talk about points and assists and rebounds and titles. There better be a chapter really early on durability. The whole league's hurt. The Warriors 4 stars. The Eastern Conference is falling apart. LeBron's going to play all 82 games. Oh, by the way, about 40 minutes a night. Man, I'm telling you, I'm more impressed with his durability than I am everything else, and I'm really impressed with everything else.
Well, I think they better keep rolling because they just went 8-1 without him. And I think last night, the beating they put on Toronto, the best team in the East allegedly, was a final statement by LeBron this is how I want to play. This is how I'm willing to play. This is how I can get, because I thought LeBron was very good last night.
Yeah.
I thought his teammates were better. And I thought it was because of LeBron's attitude. It was like, damn, this game's really important to LeBron. And so I think this 8-1 stretch with the exclamation point of taking out Toronto in the fashion they did, controlled that game from start to finish, embarrassed me, Kyle Lowry, and DeMar DeRozan. There's some pressure on Tyler.
Whitlock, I think you could coach the Cavs and they'd win the East. I mean, really, it doesn't matter. Same with the Warriors. Steve Kerr's out. Luke Walton coaches them. Mike Brown coaches them, and they roll. I think the Cavs are rolling. To your point, the East is so bad. Cavs are a really good team, and I'm going to give them a shot in the finals. But I'll say this. If they were in the West, I don't think a first-round exit would be out of the question. I wouldn't pick them to lose in the first round. But
What's your takeaway after watching them last night?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're good, but they're not.
The West is different.
Yeah, the West is a different animal. I'm not saying they would lose in the first round, but they could.
Some of that last night, Jose Calderon
19
ate
points.
the Raptors up.
Solid.
Again, to me, that was, if you just, LeBron's body language demanded that everybody play well.
I wanted to know if you know something I don't know. You call ex-champion. Did somebody give you a call? Tell us something that I don't know? But they're going to still keep rolling. Like you said, it doesn't matter who's coaching them. This is a veteran team. When you have a veteran team, the coach is not as important because they pretty much police themselves. The coach is important in coming out of timeouts, in making in-game adjustments. That's where the coach is important for a veteran team. For a young team, a coach is important to be over the top of them, making sure they're getting their film in, and you have to do a lot more coaching with a young team. With this team, with LeBron pretty much is a coach on the floor. Jose Calderon, he's playing well because he's a veteran. And Kevin Love coming back, he has energy, he's energized. I think it's not going to bother him at all. I see them walking right through the East. Toronto was the only team that maybe Toronto, Philly maybe, but Philly's beat up. But we seen what they did to Toronto.
It's amazing. A month ago, they were in crisis stage. The question now is, are they going to breeze through the East? It's pretty remarkable.
And that's why I have to say, this is sparked by this 9-game run without Ty Lue. And I'm just, maybe it was just me, but LeBron didn't look a little bit more determined last night. I thought on the defensive end, the way he celebrated some plays and was like, yeah, this is what I just thought like last night he was putting Toronto, making sure Toronto knows, no, we're going to get y'all in the playoffs, just so you know, reminding them. But also I thought it was just about this style of play. I think there's some pressure on Ty
How
Lue.
different you think they're playing than with Ty Lue? I mean, in terms of style. I think they're playing the same way.
I think Kevin Love come in and stretching the floor.
Yeah, in fairness, remember, when T. Lue was there, they were injured. Love came back right when T. Lue stopped. So they're a lot healthier now. And remember, Hood and guys sat out for a little bit.
Calderon wasn't in the rotation with Ty Lue, and I know George Hill's hurt now, but Calderon started getting played.
Yeah, he was in and out. They had times where Ty Lue played him.
Well, I'll tell you what, since February 1st, I haven't seen anybody as old as LeBron, as you're 33 years old in his 15th season, play this well. And the last couple weeks, he's been dunking on cats.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know, he normally doesn't do that.
Dunks.
Yeah, some of his best dunks of his career. Yeah. Most of the time, he finished with the left-hand layup or he finished with a layup. He putting these boys in the basket now, and he's just on another level. He looks like he is on a mission, to your point. And I think he has a good enough roster around him, solid veterans. Kevin Love can knock down shots. You got Clarkson coming off the bench, Rodney Hood. I think they have a really good team to make a run. Now, will they be able to keep up hitting those three-point shots when it comes to the finals? That's the question.
To Oklahoma City, where Kevin Durant led the Warriors to a win over the Thunder last night. Entertaining game. OKC got a big game out of Russell Westbrook. But even Russ's 44 points, not enough to overcome another terrible night out of Paul George. 5 of 19 from the field. After the game, George was pretty open about his struggles.
I got to figure out something mechanical in my shot. That's I've had struggles throughout the season in my career of shooting it, but it's all just been not making shots that night. I don't know what it is. It feels funny. Shooting the ball feels funny. So I'm gonna work with our trainers and trying to figure that out. But I don't feel myself shooting the ball right now. It's just my shooting period. I don't know if it's what's stiff, what's tight. Something's going on in my shooting right now.
That's interesting. George's numbers last couple of months been terrible, shooting just 37% from the field. That is really off for him, 29% from three. Timing isn't great for PG, who will be seeking a max deal in the offseason. Whitlock, should teams be leery of signing Paul George now this summer?
I personally would. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think this season's going to be written off. They're going to take your line of narrative that it's all on Russell Westbrook. But to me, Paul George isn't a superstar. Star, but not a superstar. Some kind of package, him and LeBron to L.A., and that makes the Lakers. I don't buy it. I don't see. Paul George is shrinking with expectations and the pressure in OKC. The guy, he's talking about something wrong with his shot, not in the first quarter. Let's go look at his first quarter stats all year. He's much better in the first quarter in terms of points, field goal percentage, three-point percentage. He shrinks in the fourth quarter. He's not a superstar.
Well, he's a very, very high-end two-way player. And since you're throwing up these crazy graphics, let me throw up a crazy graphic that here's 8 guys who have left Westbrook, and here's what's happened to their game.
He's going to find a way to hate on Westbrook. I mean, it never fails. You find a way to weasel him in there. Every single
Mr.
time.
House, this is called
Unbelievable.
data. How come Whitlock
Why
gets
did you
data?
think that he's about to average a triple-double for the second straight year?
Okay, you want to throw that graphic up? Listen, Paul's a very good two-way player. Now,
he ain't Klay Thompson.
He's no, and I don't think he's Kawhi Leonard if healthy. But he's a very good player, and let me tell you
Who
something.
shrinks in the fourth quarter. He started out good last night in the first quarter and then just got worse.
Oh, by the way, Kevin Durant, good first half last night, terrible late. I mean, fourth quarter's harder to score because guys play defense in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, they do. And as far as the two-way player, to your point, there's not too many in the league. Paul George is one, and that's at a premium. Jimmy Butler's another one.
Yep.
Kawhi Leonard when he's healthy, Klay Thompson, and Giannis. Maybe Joel Embiid.
Now.
Durant is starting to become, but not really like an on-ball defender like that, more so protecting the rim and things like that. But I wouldn't be leery if I think he's a very good player. His numbers didn't go down. He's averaging 21 with OKC. He averaged 18 at a career with Indiana. So his numbers went up at OKC. His shot just a little bit down, a little bit. But I still think that this guy is a very, very unique player. And
Superstar?
No, it's not. How many superstars is in the league?
4?
You know, superstars is different. He's a star, though.
Yes,
I'm going to break it down for you, Whitlock, because I hear where you're coming from. He's not the number one player on the championship team.
I agree.
All right, we know that. He's a max player, but he's not your number one guy on a title team. So if I'm the Lakers, because that's where he wants to go, if I can only get him, if I can't get LeBron, I don't think I'm paying him. I'm not going after him. Because in 4 years, I'd say in 2 years, I think Brandon Ingram may be better. Julius Randle may be better. Kyle Kuzma probably won't be a two-way guy, but offensively he may be as good or better. And who knows with Lonzo. So if he's the only one I can get, I think I'll leave him alone. The problem is to have a shot at LeBron, I think you have to get George. And I don't mind him if I have LeBron. If George is going to be my second guy, I'm cool with him. But as my number one guy with all that young talent in L.A., I'm with you. I think I'll leave him alone. Now, Philly's going to have cap room. If they can't get LeBron, George, to me, would be a wonderful consolation prize.
Shooter.
Can he handle being the third guy? Because that's what he'd be behind
That's what
Simmons
he
and Embiid.
is, though. He's the third guy. But again, he's number 2 right now, and he's failing.
I'm not sure if he'll be number 3 offensively in Philly because he can
Simmons
score
will
better.
fit.
Yeah, Simmons is more of a facilitator.
So that'd be that'd be a great place for him.
But don't you think it's interesting that his worst month ever is with Westbrook? I'm just saying.
Oh, no, listen, I think there's some legitimacy to what you're saying. No, I really do.
Is it his worst month ever? Come on.
I think there's some legitimacy to what you're saying.
But it's a
but
month.
at the end of the day, the guys had all season. OKC had some expectations. He's not meeting them, not anywhere close. And Lord help me, we didn't even get to Carmelo, who literally, I feel like I can wear Carmelo shorts now. He looks so damn thick. It's embarrassing.
Welcome back, Eric Mangini, and now Fox college football analyst Joel Klatt. He's unveiling his full mock draft 4.0 later today on foxsports.com. For now, we got a preview of what you'll find there. Let's focus on quarterbacks, okay? Joel's got Sam Darnold going number 1. Josh Allen, big Wyoming kid 2. Baker Mayfield, regrettably 3. Josh Rosen, 7. UCLA. Don't have former Heisman winner Lamar Jackson in the first round. He's refused to run a 40 on 2 different occasions. Made it clear he's only interested in playing quarterback. So, Joel, is Lamar hurting his draft stock with some of these decisions?
Yeah, I think that he is. Listen, as a player, you have a job during this process, and that is to maximize your odds of creating an impact in the National Football League. And the team's job is to minimize the risk associated with the draft pick. That's the job of the 2 parts of this equation. And the problem for Lamar Jackson right now is that he, yes, is a great quarterback, and long-term probably will be a quarterback in the NFL. But if he's unwilling to allow a team to take his unique and incredible skill set and allow them to impact their team positively during this developmental period, then he's making a huge mistake. Now you can't really take him with a first-round selection because he's just going to have to sit there. Why not be a Cordell Stewart for the late 90s Pittsburgh Steelers? Go in, impact the team positively, develop, and then become the starting quarterback 2 or 3 years down the road.
I understand what you're saying, and I understand his position too. He believes that he should play quarterback, and that's all that he wants to play, and I get that. And I had Brad Smith. I drafted him.
Yeah.
And I talked to Brad on the phone, and Brad said, hey, don't draft me if you want me to play anything differently. And I said, look, this isn't recruiting. We get to decide. We're going to draft you, and you're going to play. We'll give you a chance, but you're going to eventually play where we want you to play. I think Lamar has the right to say this is where I want to play first, and teams have the right to say, okay, we don't want to deal with that.
Sure. I covered Brad Smith at Missouri his entire career, and I think that's a good comparable. I think Lamar's a bit better as a passer, but not much better than Brad Smith was. And I like your point of view there in terms of like, hey, man, we're not recruiting you. And so the question we got into yesterday, Colin, you and I talked about was just like this. He's creating a mystery about himself.
I thought that was a great point.
In terms of, I'm not going to run the 40. Me and my mom, we're not really going to talk to teams. He's creating mystery in a process that I don't think mystery serves you well.
And it's an advantage, guys. This is what I don't understand. Everyone's saying like, well, why don't you say that about the other quarterbacks? Because they can't do it. What an incredible advantage it is for Lamar Jackson, who has the skill set that he can occupy one of the 53 spots on an active NFL roster and impact the team positively while developing the requisite skill to become an every down quarterback later in his career. That's an incredible advantage. Again, Cordell Stewart never gets to be a starter unless he comes in as slash. And I'm not saying he's got to change his position. That's not what I'm saying in the least. He is a long-term quarterback. But if you're unwilling to be somewhat pliable with the way that your organization uses you early in your career, you're hurting your draft stock. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Look at Tim Tebow, out of the league now because he was not pliable with his situation. Cordell Stewart became a starter, ultimately took Pittsburgh to an AFC championship game in a game that they lost to Denver. That's the model that Lamar should follow.
I had multiple coaches tell me they love Tebow, just not at quarterback. I mean, I had people in the league say, I'd love him on my roster. I love his work ethic. But to your point, he wouldn't even go to Canada and play quarterback. Tim was, I'm a quarterback or I'm out.
But in Tim's situation, Tim ran the ball a lot better when he was a quarterback than when he played anything else. And he was a different type of player in that position than when he played in other spots. And in fairness to Lamar, if you go into a room and you're working with the running backs or the wide receivers as well as the quarterbacks, you can easily get pushed in one direction and not really truly get developed during the course of that first year. So I understand where he's coming from that perspective.
Let me just throw out a great fit, all right? I mean, if he's able or willing to go in and let a coach be creative, and I'm just talking about his first year or two, New Orleans all of a sudden becomes a great fit. Aging quarterback, highly creative play caller that's willing to use all sorts of different weapons in many different creative ways, and all of a sudden now Lamar Jackson fits in New Orleans. If he says, don't do anything like a Brad Smith, don't do anything with me, don't draft me unless it's quarterback, well, now all of a sudden New Orleans is not necessarily a fit, and that's all I'm saying. These antics are affecting negatively his draft stock.
Let me ask you this, Eric. If you're the head coach and the guy you can't get in touch with him or you can't interview him the way you want to because of his mom, because he's holding back and avoiding interviews, would that not be a red flag to you?
Yeah, that would be a concern. It's just hard for me to believe that it may be more difficult to get a hold of him than say, a guy who had an agent. But the idea that it's impossible to get a hold of him, that to me seems like a pretty big stretch.
There are reports that the mom is like, no, we're not doing that. We don't want to talk to you.
Well, I've dealt with agents in the past, and we've all dealt with agents in the past that will set up a workout for teams they want to go to, but make it really difficult for other teams to work the same guy out. Hey, he's available. Oh, he's not available when you're available.
Gotcha.
So there's a little bit of that goes on with agents that you just don't really hear talked about.
As we just saw, Joel has Sam Darnold going number 1 overall to the Browns, who are hosting the former USC standout for a pre-draft visit today. But there was a report earlier this week that claimed Cleveland was likely to draft Wyoming's Josh Allen instead. Klatt, would it be a mistake for the Browns to pass on Colin's favorite quarterback, Sam Darnold?
I think it would be a mistake for Cleveland to overlook red flags. All right, that's simply stated. They clearly.
Talking about Darnold's interceptions and turnovers?
No, I'm talking about the fact that Josh Allen's red flags concerns far outweigh Sam Darnold's concerns, because Sam Darnold, some of those, in particular the interceptions, I'm glad you brought those up. To me, they're not as much a concern because they're very much in the mold of a Deshaun Watson who was forced into that mode in order to win football games. This guy's out there to win football games. He was playing with an inferior supporting cast around him at USC by USC standards. The play calling and schematics were not great. They were fairly predictable by Pac-12 opposing coaching standards. And he was out there doing a lot of this on his own. You talk with anybody in the Pac-12, you watch his tape, this guy's a dynamic player that changes a team right away. Allen, you can't necessarily say that. His skill set is tremendous. He's got a live arm. Outside of that, didn't necessarily make his team better. Faltered during games in which the competition was either level or above what his team was. And his completion percentage was subpar, to say it that way. So I think it would be a mistake for Cleveland.
This process is so difficult, trying to figure out the quarterback situation. And we see it every year. People miss constantly. And to me, what they need to do is go through the process of sitting down with the quarterback. We used to send out part of the playbook a week ahead of time, have the guys study it, go in, work and quiz them for 6 or 7 hours, then spend time with them, then work them out, really get to understand who this player is. And look, whoever you're comfortable at the end of the day, that's the one you need to go to. You can't be affected by any external perceptions or a push from the fans. It's got to be whatever you believe in after spending a significant amount of time with those guys. That's what you got to go with.
You know what's weird about this? I have a feeling Cleveland's going to take Josh Allen. Okay, do you remember when we were having the presidential campaign? And Trump would say something at the time we were all shocked by, and his numbers would dip. And then a day later, he'd be at 50% approval. And this happened for like 6 months. Then all of a sudden the election happens. It's like his base really liked him. So Darnold had an amazing pro day. It was over. And 3 days later, Josh Allen, rumors he's going to be taken. Darnold's done everything. And every single time, Josh Allen's name keeps going up. Why? Darnold had a pro day that you were there. You're like, that's the best pro day I've ever seen. Yeah. He's not a slam dunk. This information's coming from somewhere. Cleveland's into Josh Allen.
I think it would be a mistake. I will tell you this. Quarterbacks at any level, really, but in particular at the NFL level, you win with touch and accuracy. You do not win with arm strength. It's great to have arm strength, but ask Drew Brees. You win with touch, accuracy, and timing. And that's what Sam Darnold has. When you watch him throw the football, in particular in those layered zone over linebackers in front of safeties, he owns the middle of the field, and increasingly more, and Coach, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but increasingly more, the game is played inside the numbers less than outside the numbers, because a corner can just take away your number one threat. You can shut down outside the numbers with great corner play, but interior, that's where the schematics of the game really take hold, and you win with touch and accuracy, which Darnold has in spades over a guy like Allen.
And sometimes when you look at these top picks, you're also looking at upside. If you feel one guy hasn't had the same opportunities to develop based off of where they played college football, you think there's more upside, there's more growth, and maybe it's a function of they think Sam Darnold's a much more finished product than what we're talking about with Allen.
We're joined by O.J. Simpson and Marcus Allen over here because Sam Darnold can do no wrong. Any mistake he had, it was either coaching, it was weather conditions, it was bad scheme.
The fumbles were bad. I'm going to give you the fumbles.
And so, again, Joel, this is what I'm saying. You win games at the quarterback position in the NFL by not turning the ball over, and that's either by fumble or interception. This kid has a turnover problem. That's a bigger red flag to me than I've seen quarterbacks that come from small schools, from Phil Simms to anybody that you don't know about the competition they played. Maybe maybe their their completion percentage wasn't what you like.
You don't see quarterbacks whose main or only strength is this gigantic arm. With arm strength. I mean, we've tested that with Kyle Boulder, and we've tested that with Jamarcus Russell. All right? I mean, that doesn't win at the next level. I'm more concerned with Allen.
You just compared it to Jamarcus Russell.
Yeah, because guess what? The two attributes that no one could look away from. Did you see him throw? Did you see how strong his arm was?
Jamarcus Russell's diet was like mine.
I understand.
I don't think that's Josh Allen's problem.
Look at what Sam Darnold did to the whole makeup of college football after he was inserted into the lineup. There wasn't a player that was more important to his team of the last 2 years than Sam Darnold in the positive fashion.
He lives right next to UCLA. He just resents USC.
I like Josh Rosen better. Eric, you made up for that terrible comment you made in the A block. All right, welcome back. Time for last call. Let's move to the Rams, who just made another big offseason move, acquiring Brandin Cooks from the Patriots. The receiver is just the latest big name to move to L.A. this offseason, joining Ndamukong Suh, Aqib Talib, Marcus Peters, and Sam Shields. Cowherd, do you like the Rams' offseason spending spree?
Some of it, like any shopping spree, parts of it I like. I think they just gave up a first-round pick for a wide receiver that Sean Payton and Belichick both gave up on in a year.
Won't cost you a lot of money. They wanted a receiver. They gave up on Sammy Watkins. I like the move. All right, to a couple of other stars who might be on the move, Odell Beckham Jr. and Rob Gronkowski. Both guys appear to be at a crossroads with their current teams and continue to pop up in trade rumors. Cowherd, who do you think is more likely to be traded, OBJ or Gronk?
I think Gronk. OBJ is expensive and fragile, and Gronk is cheaper and fragile. And so I think you could get Gronk for third, fourth.
I bet you the Giants want to trade OBJ more than the Patriots want to trade Gronk.
I think you're right.
But his contract demands make him hard to trade OBJ. And so I think you're right. Gronk is more likely to move on. And, you know, Gronk's not all in with the Patriots, so I can see him moving on.
Agreed.
We'll see you tomorrow.
We'll see you tomorrow.